Hi, everybody. Time for our mindfulness moment. Come on in. It's time for our mindfulness together. It's a corporate time of meditation and connecting to the divine spirit of heaven. So come on in and join me. Let me get my better microphone on here for TikTok. So this is our time of corporate meditation together, a time of sharing our spirits and our hearts and connecting with the divine goodness of heaven together. And on this, it seems like the precipice of a historic moment, sadly historic moment of the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade. We need each other quite a bit today, don't we? So let me know where you're joining from. In mindfulness moments, we connect by place. So we share where we're joining from, where we are. And my name is Paul, and I'm in Fresno, California. So let me know where you're joining from as we get ready to step into a spiritual time together. So just find a comfortable spot for yourself. Keep your device with you, and we'll just connect to the divine spirit of the goodness of heaven together. And this is not a Christian activity. Less and less I am willing to use that word for myself as it continues to represent the worst of what human beings can be in many ways. But this is a spiritual activity, and I do it. My spirituality connects through a belief in the teachings of Jesus. Jesus just wasn't a very good Christian, as Christian is defined in Western culture these days. So let me know where you're joining from. If you're going to be with me this morning as we go into our time of mindfulness together. Excuse me for sniffling. I've got the sniffles this morning. Yeah, it is a bit of a scary day today as we realize, I think many of us will realize today that we've had a minority group of people, and by minority that means less than the majority of people in the country who have seized power and are going to pass laws based upon religious beliefs rather than the will of the people, and really what is right. And they declare they're doing it on behalf of God without any biblical evidence to support that. And so we're just going to sit in that moment together as human beings today. Good morning, Cyber Poet. And say, well, where does our peace come from today? I feel this moment deep in my core, and I feel like there will be not only a physical response, but a spiritual response. But mostly I just feel deep sadness that for decades, various people have strategized how to begin to implement religious law into our civil code, and have been on a path of that strategy for decades. And they hold out carrots like low taxes, things like that. that they never actually give. They hold out carrots like, we'll overturn healthcare and we'll make sure nobody gets free healthcare in the United States. And they don't do that either. I don't know why I'm feeling this so deeply right now. So as we go into our spiritual moment together, let me know where you're joining from. And Cyberpoet will work on getting some peace together today. You know, I believe that anybody can have any political beliefs they want to have in the U.S. That's part of our design. But that some are using my lifelong religious heritage, to blame God for their selfish desires for power is abhorrent to me. Hi, West Virginia, welcome. Yeah, everybody let me know where you're joining from. I'm very happy to be with you today. Hi, Colorado, welcome. My name is Paul. I'm in Fresno, California, and as we go into the spiritual moment, I'm going to light my incense for today. I've got my fan blowing because it's kind of hot down here. It is. And for me, incense just tells my physiology, my body, this physical part of me, that we're going into a spiritual moment. It is a somber day, Pennsylvania. I just reposted. I'm going to start reposting some of my old videos about abortion, and I just posted one talking about, let's list all of the Bible verses that support anti-abortion extremism, and the joke, not joke, but the irony of the video is there is not a single verse in the Bible clearly supporting anti-abortion extremism. But there are hundreds and hundreds of verses clearly commanding care for the poor, the marginalized, and the foreigner. Yet Christian people will tell you that God wants them to be Republican. Thank you, Blair, for sharing the video. So let's sit together in the pain and sadness of this moment and be encouraged that there truly are more good people than those people. Yeah. People say God knows every day of our lives before there was one. They use that verse from Psalm 139 as an extremist anti-abortionist verse. Yeah, never stop and think, well, if God knows every day that's going to happen, then God was not surprised by the abortion. And if God is really omniscient, omnipresent, omniscient, omnipresent, I don't know, all-powerful, all-knowing, everywhere at the same time, omnipotent, then he would, if not endorsed the abortion, allowed it to happen. So how do we process through sadness and grief in a moment like this, when we see self-righteousness sneering in our faces? How do we process through that anger? Omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent. There you go, Jeremy. Thank you. Pastor from OK in the house, where they pretty much banned abortion there. In the name of God, because they're going to be a godly nation, right? This actually wasn't my topic. I'm going into the spirit of Caleb for this today, but I don't know. I'm feeling the grief of the moment. So I thought some of you might want to feel that grief together. Good morning, Missy Perky. So find a comfortable spot, and we're going to process through today with connecting our spirits together and connecting our corporate spirit to the divine. Get connected as we go forward in our days, our day together. Thank you for sharing, Miss Perky. So just allow the chair to really support your seat. I want to share a verse, and this may be pertinent to the day, of what does it look like to see challenges ahead like today? Yeah, you knew hearts are heavy today for sure. And so we share those hearts together and we walk alongside each other. But what is it like to see obstacles, to see heavy-heartedness, to see pain, and be able to say, I can still walk forward? And again, if you're just joining us, we connect through place. Let me know where you're joining from. My name is Paul, and I'm from Fresno. So I love this verse from Numbers 14:24 of the Christian Bible, the Old Testament of the Protestant Bible, the Torah of the Jewish Bible. Hi, Washington State. And it says this in Numbers 14:24. It says, but my servant Caleb, because he has a different spirit and has followed me fully, I will bring into the land into which he went, and his descendants shall possess it. I have another Paul from Fresno. How cool. P-Dub. Hi, Charles from Chula Vista. So why did Caleb have a different spirit? What does that different spirit look like? And how can we carry that different spirit into the day? Well, what we know about Caleb are a couple of things. We know he was one of 12 spies sent to spy the promised land as the Israelites were getting prepared to cross the Jordan River and go into the promised land. And the 12 spies went into the land, and they came back, and two of them, the young guys, Joshua and Caleb, said, wow, the land is incredible. It's everything God said it was going to be. This is an amazing day. The other 10 spies, the older generation, said, wait, and just doused the hearts of the people and said, yes, it's a beautiful land, but there are giants, and we are like grasshoppers to them. And Caleb, as the people start to murmur and scream and are angry, Caleb says, wait a second, yes, there are giants, and physically we may look like grasshoppers to them, but they are bread to us. You have 12 guys, two different generations, that are seeing the exact same thing but have very different conclusions. The different spirit of Caleb says yes ahead. But with the goodness of heaven and the love for one another, we're going to do this. We're going to accomplish this. And The older generation saying, no, life can never be different than what we've always known it to be. So the story is that generation has to march around the desert until every single person passes away. Sometimes it feels like that in our generation, like we're not going to be able to accomplish good in this generation. We're going to have to wait for the next. And so every person in that generation passed away except for Joshua and Caleb. It says in the Bible, because Caleb had a different spirit and truly followed God. Like Jeff says here, the Supreme Court decision is from religion. It is from a religious ideological belief, not a true following of God. It is a man-made religion. And man-made religion says we need rules and laws. We need to beat down people. Good cannot come from human beings. But we're going to say today, as a Caleb spirit group of people, we will overcome this. I mean, I like Cindy's comment there of we must focus on caring for women and babies in a big way. I think that, yeah, Miss Perky, that's true. Caleb lived longer, and we know that even in his old age, he said, I'm still going to go grab onto my promise. But I think there was something in him that was able to say, the future can be different than the past. We don't have to live out of bondage to law and rules, but we can live in the promise of loving one another. Thank you, Father Time. So let's do a little corporate meditation and mindfulness together now, as we do on our Mindfulness Moments events. Yeah, Jeff Smith, there's not a chance, because the people that support extremist abortion stances believe once the umbilical cord has been cut, they are no longer responsible for that human being. They only are responsible in the womb. That's the real hypocrisy of it all. Once that umbilical cord is cut, those people want to make sure that that baby does not have health care, child care, parental leave, any of the things that really do lessen the number of abortions in the land. And I'm bringing that anger into our mindfulness moments. Be still. Hi, how are you? Because it is a great sadness today. So what does that Caleb spirit look like in us that say we're going to rise up? We're going to rise up and move forward. We'll not let this old mindset of this older generation stop us from making things better, from changing the world for the better. I just feel that rising up in me, and I feel like I need to process through the grief. And today may be a time of grieving. It says in Ecclesiastes, there is a time for every purpose under heaven, and there's a time for joy and a time for pain, a time to build up and a time to break down. And so we're sitting with our pain here just a little bit as we're contemplating what a Caleb spirit looks like. So just take a deep breath and start to feel yourself as spirit. And we're body, soul, and spirit. Thank you, Jason, for the follow. And so just feel yourself as spirit, a spirit that will live longer than this body, a spirit that is eternal, that existed before this body and will exist after this body is gone. Just imagine what that spirit person feels like in you. just almost becoming bigger than your body. Breathe in deeply and out your mouth. It's always a very cleansing thing. Breath in through the nose and expel it from your diaphragm out. Let's do that one more time. It almost makes me feel better just to do that breath. Now imagine, feel it in your spirit. Feel your spirit connecting to my spirit and the other spirits represented on this feed on TikTok and YouTube today. The light in me recognizes the light in you. The spirit of heaven that exists in me as a son of man or a daughter of man rests in you. We are connected through the divine spirit of heaven. Our energy connects to one another. The Bible calls it that we're seated with Christ in heavenly realms. Jesus got to visit with Elijah and Moses before going to the cross. We are able to connect with the spirit of Caleb to one another and with the spirit of heaven. Yourself. Let your seat support your body. You don't have to have any tension in your muscles of your physiology. If any anxiety comes into your brain, pull it out, set it over on the counter, and say, I'll be able to tend to you in a little bit, but for now, I just want to be with those who share my spirit today. Imagine yourself in a safe spiritual space. For many of us, this is imagining ourselves in a place like a forest or by a lake or on a mountain or some place where we can really sense our spirit connecting to the spirit of heaven. It may be a beautiful place that you visited. Sorry, TikTok, for hitting your microphone. It may be a beautiful place that you visited. Just imagine your spirit sitting in that space right now. Close your eyes if you need to really get a vision of what that looks like to sit in that safe space. Can you see yourself there? For me, it always seems to be by this pond that we had when I was in 8th grade, and I would lie out in the sun on the diving board. I could just always sense the spirit of heaven when I was there. I went there when I was sad or needed to be alone. Just imagine now, as you're in that safe space, just the spirit of heaven coming and sitting with you. It can be God as God would look like to you, or just a spiritual presence of goodness, of hope, of that Caleb spirit, that can-do spirit surrounding you, sitting with you. It can look like something embodied as a person, or it can just be something spiritual. It's whatever you can connect to in this moment. Just feel that feeling of sitting with the divine spirit of heaven. Loving this moment. These obstacles ahead are like bread to me. And I will see the obstacles. I will not be in denial, but I will not be afraid, because the spirit of heaven is in me. I am a son of man. Let that spirit speak to you and tell you who you are, your true identity. You are a warrior. You are a Caleb. You are someone that can't be effed with because you are a bad mofo. I mean that in the best possible way. That you will stand for yourself and for others because you are powerful and carry the spirit of Caleb. Firewalker, I love it. What is that definition of your identity today that is greater than what you may even think about yourself in your self story? I am a badass. I am not afraid. I am okay. I have that spirit of Caleb, as Missy says on the screen. Human religious forces cannot stop me. I can be afraid, but cannot be stopped. Let that feeling permeate your spirit. We are a Caleb generation. And even though we're in a season of religious turmoil and of it appearing that the religious spirits of evangelicalism and Western Christianity seem to be winning, they shall not prevail because of badasses who carry the spirit of Caleb like you and me. Thank you, Buffalo. So I bless that spirit in you as you bless that spirit in me. Let's finish with gratitude and let's tell the spirit of heaven that we're grateful that we've been able to interact with that spirit today. Thank you, Spirit of Heaven. It is honoring and joyful to sit with you in this moment. And we release ourselves from connection with that spirit. We come back from our safe place together. Let yourself be grateful to one another in this moment. Namaste to you. I recognize the spirit of heaven, that Caleb spirit in you as you recognize that spirit in me. And let's finish with gratefulness to ourselves. Look at yourself in the camera, if you will, and just say, thank you, me, for giving me this moment. And caring about myself as I start my day, as we, as a system, as a human system, start our day. Namaste. Amen. All right. I hope that was helpful. Thank you to those who are saying it was. Let me stop our music here. If you would like to share what you heard, what you felt in this moment together, it's always very encouraging to hear what others experienced in the moment. I would love you to put it in. Go Buffalo says, it helped my anger cool. John Storr says this was very helpful. Wonderful. Don Brennan says, thank you. If anybody joined late in the middle of the moment, this is preserved on my YouTube channel. You can go back and watch it later. Watch it anytime you want. It's available there. For those of you on YouTube, you can see the QR code that would take you to my website, so you can sign up for my newsletter for announcements and even give a little bit of support on a monthly basis by signing up for a subscription to help me do my work here Anywhere from $5.99 a month to $100 a month really does help. And if you don't have it to give, do not give. Only if it's something extra you're giving out of your heart. I would love that. It's pastor-paul.com is the website. So I'd love to hear more. What did you hear? What did you feel as you interacted with the Spirit of heaven and contemplated this idea of a spirit of Caleb today? How did it feel to process our anger through together today? Our anger at what is happening in the Supreme Court, our anger at what's happening in our politics and our culture, our anger at a religious man-made mindset is impacting us by trying to impose its religious law through the civil code, which is 100% the opposite of what Jesus came to do. Pulled me back from something bad. Yeah, let's be productive. Let's be angry, and let's be productive in our anger. Sometimes being productive in our anger is an expression of anger. Feeling anger is okay. We should be angry today. But if anger takes us to a place of bitterness, of self-harm, then it's not going to be productive. But anger in and of itself is not a non-productive emotion. Anger is telling myself something's wrong. I feel a great sense of injustice. And yes, folks, I do feel a great sense of injustice today. As SCOTUS prepares to overturn Roe v. Wade, perhaps, we should feel angry and feel a great injustice has been propagated. On YouTube, Gabby says, I felt that I wasn't alone and that I didn't need to be angry. Brought to mind that Psalms, that even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will not fear that evil. Calming her anger. Thank you, Gabby. I hope that's the right pronoun. I'm sorry. Thank you for sharing that, Gabby. That's wonderful. So don't be afraid of anger. Christians are afraid of anger and emotion because we believe human is always bad. But sometimes anger is telling us a story that we need to hear. Somebody's asking again, what is the website? It is pastor-paul.com. I'm Pastor Paul, so it's pastor- don't forget that -paul.com. Hi, Gabby. Thank you for the smile emoji. Those of us outside the church, says Kiki sings, will be the and that embrace these mothers and children. Will be the arms that embrace. Very good. Ding, ding, ding. Applause, says John Storr. What else are you guys feeling today? What questions do you have? What thoughts? You know, I posted today that, you know, when Roe v. Wade passed, the Southern Baptist Conference, the largest Protestant denomination in the world, reiterated its support for Roe v. Wade. Roe passed in 73, in 76, and I believe 77. Again, they reinforced it. The Southern Baptist Conference said at their annual convention, they supported Roe v. Wade and said that abortion was a Catholic issue. Even Billy Graham expressed his support for Roe v. Wade. It was when the Jimmy Carter administration, Jimmy Carter, by the way, hated by evangelical Christians, even though he was the most active Christian and most evangelical president we've ever had, at least in the modern generation. I don't know much about, know for sure that about the others, but Christians became opposed to Jimmy Carter because his administration went after private Christian institutions like Liberty College, Jerry Falwell Senior's college that he had started, and said, we will not give you federal funding for your Pell Grants, etc., if you don't integrate your schools. And so Christian private schools got very angry at being compelled by the federal government to integrate. Some of these schools held rules that banned interracial dating, and the Carter administration went after them, and it made Christians very angry. And so Jerry Falwell began to interact with a Republican operative named Paul Weyrich, and Weyrich brought the idea of abortion as a manipulative issue to manipulate Christian voters. Jerry Falwell said, this is great, because if we go forward saying we're racist and we don't want people of color in our universities, that's probably not going to play very well, but abortion we can use to manipulate voters. And the moral majority was born, and Ronald Reagan, who was one of the most liberal pro-choice governors in the history of the United States, suddenly becomes a staunch anti-abortionist. And it's been a manipulation and a scheme ever since. And it worked. But make no mistake, anti-abortion extremism in the church has its roots completely in racism. 100%. And it is a manipulation tool used by the Republican Party, and they mock Christian voters for it. They sit in rooms and say, Christians, all we have to do is scream abortion, and they'll let us do anything we want. So love it. Keep sharing. My wife is leaving. I'm saying goodbye. Political football, that's correct. Missy says that does not surprise me. So trust me when I'm saying be at peace. I'm not saying don't be angry. Angry is not the opposite of being at peace. Anger is an emotion that says an injustice is occurring and I need to express that injustice. So don't be afraid. Just make sure it doesn't take away your well-being and your powerful center. When we know our story and we know who we are powerful, and we're able to stand against injustice in a way that's powerful and healthy and moves forward. John says it's all in how you express it. I have one of my abortion videos is taken off a little bit on TikTok today. It's going to have the Christians going crazy. You got to go check out that video on TikTok. It's on Instagram and YouTube as well. I think it's on YouTube. I'll have to make sure it's on there. And it is about all the verses in the Bible that support anti-abortion extremism. And the answer is there are none, not a single one. Thank you, John. I'm glad my life caught you at the right moment. Yes, correct. Abortion is a political issue. Not a moral one. I mean, good job, will do. Thanks, DB. What is it, DB Venus? Yes, what else do you have to share? Thoughts, questions, comments? Like Gabby was saying, we don't fear evil, but we do stand against it. There's nothing good or profitable or commanded of the Bible to ingrain religious codes into civil law. Abortion is for sure an ethical issue. Well, it's not a biblical one. It can be an ethical one. We can argue that. Just you can't argue that it's biblical. Tell me more about how you see it as an ethical issue. Which is which? Is that right? Or is it which switch? I like the name. So I'd love to hear more about how you see it as an ethical issue. I think I get where you're going with that, and I think I agree. My stance is you can't say the Bible supports right-wing anti-abortion extremism. Nothing in the Bible supports that at all. In fact, I would say the Bible very strongly is against right-wing extremism. What were the bitter herbs of the Bible? That's a really intriguing passage. I know a lot of people say that's kind of a pro-choice passage. I'm not sure I agree with it. It's a really weird idea that a woman caught accused of adultery drinks this potion given by God that will then, if she is an adulteress, it'll make her womb barren, like her womb swell up. It's a really weird thing. So I don't like this. So I like the one in Exodus 22 a lot better. Who said hello there? Hi, Melissa. Wendy says you can't legislate morality. So I kind of disagree with that statement too, but let me come back to that, Wendy. Exodus 22, there's a passage that says, if a pregnant woman is harmed in a fight and she miscarries, the perpetrator pays a fine, but if the mother dies, the perpetrator pays with their life. So it's just a passage that shows what is a common Jewish thought, that the mother's life is more valuable than the life of the fetus. And that is the stance of most of our Jewish friends today, including the stance of the nation of Israel, which Christians worship as the holy Mecca. I shouldn't say holy Mecca, as Christians worship as the Holy Land. Israel does have legalized abortion, and the government pays for those abortions. And that is the stance, that a mother's life and the value and the quality of the mother's life is more important than the fetus. And that's a verse that I think is there. So now when it comes to legislating morality, in some ways I would argue back against that a little bit. I get what you're saying, Wendy. I don't think you should legislate religious code, is how I say it. Because in some ways, a stoplight is legislating morality. A stoplight is saying our moral code is we're going to stop for one another so our kids don't get killed in car accidents. We're going to agree to the moral code of we're each going to, because the truth is I can run a red light anytime I want and hope there's not a cop around to give me a fine. But my morality says, you know what, I'm going to stop for this light because that's our agreement as a culture, that we're going to stop at stoplights so we don't kill each other with our cars or kill our children with our cars. So I do believe we legislate morality, but I don't know, maybe that's just grammar. The person who decides to get the procedure done is the one who bears the weight, not everyone else. Kevin, thank you for the follow. I would say it's an ethical issue because the government is taking away my bodily autonomy. Yeah, I understand that. You're right. Does anyone have a problem with the seemingly suddenly popular phrase, God is good all the time? That's always been a phrase all my life. And I've always hated it because I was being abused by my pastor father when I was a kid. I didn't know that I was being abused. I just knew that life was not good. So yeah, God is good all the time. And in his goodness, he allows kids to be abused by their religious parents. Makes sense? We answer for our own sins, don't we? Not the sins of others. Wendy says, okay, yes, religion is not law. Better way to say it. Yeah, so I'm not disagreeing with you, Wendy. I'm just pressing back on the verbiage. Which says a woman's right to medical privacy. Roe v. Wade validates abortion, birth control, and interracial marriage. Yep, you're right. I agree. And those are ethical issues. My spouse disagrees, and I don't know what to tell her. Changing Roe v. Wade is bad. I don't know, go Buffalo, if the idea of women starting to have self-induced abortions doesn't scare somebody, if the idea of the wealthy still being able to get abortions and the poor not being able to get safe abortions doesn't bother people, then you just don't know the Bible. The fact that the Bible in no way supports supports banning Roe v. Wade, not Jeremiah 1, not Psalm 139, not Luke 1. None of those passages say that God is staunchly anti-abortion. Not thou shalt not kill. None of those. There is no passage in the Bible. When Jesus was alive, it was a very common Roman practice for a practice called exposure. And the Romans, if a Roman father, the Roman mother had no say in it, of course, because women had no agency at all in that culture. If a Roman father decided he didn't want a baby for any reason, he would leave that baby on the local dump heap on the side of the road and allow it to die of exposure, either being killed by an animal or killed by exposure to the elements or carried off by a family to be raised as a slave, perhaps. And by the way, it was a common practice, of course, for any baby that had a birth defect, any sort of visible scar or handicap. And if it was female, quite often it was just the father didn't want a daughter because daughters didn't carry value. They were cost, not help in the household in that culture. And so that was a horrifying, horrific practice going on in the land. And Jesus never once is recorded as saying, see, that's the issue that's going to bring the Roman Empire down. Their treatment of those babies, that's what God really cares about. Nowhere. It's just not in the Bible. So go Buffalo. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, those are issues that I think should make people who follow a Bible that says over and over and over again that the law of God is to care for the poor, the marginalized, and the foreigner. Those things should matter, but our hearts have been so hardened by religious fervor. It's disgusting, horribly disgusting. I feel this is just the beginning of taking away women's rights. I think there's going to be a response. You bet, Buffalo. I feel something in my spirit that there's going to be a spiritual response to this. I tend to be, I tell my wife I am pessimistically optimistic. I do believe our culture is headed for overturn. When I hear people talk about Christian Sharia law, I think we're experiencing that today. This is not completely unlike the Taliban taking over a country and saying we're going to implement our religious law now and force people to live under our religion through the civil code. John says, I always got the impression that Jesus was the guy that says you do you and answer for yourself. I probably wouldn't agree with that because I think he said you get to heaven if you clothe the naked. I mean, Jesus literally said, you didn't clothe the naked, you didn't feed the hungry, you didn't visit the prisoner in prison. So therefore, depart from me, I never knew you. So I don't think that's a selfish view of the world. And that may not be exactly what you're saying, but I think he said we are very responsible for one another. Very responsible for each other, but it should come out of our heart for self-sacrifice for one another. I think the message of Jesus is you're all connected, that you all are a part of this thing we call God. And when you don't care for your brother or your sister, you are lacking caring for yourself. That love your neighbor as yourself to me means loving yourself will allow goodness to flow out of you to others. But if you hate yourself, you will do things that benefit you without caring for another. Melissa says, I think that's exactly where we are headed. I mean, if you believe the Bible shows again and again and again human history that culture goes to this space of no longer caring for the poor, the marginalized, and the foreigner. And that culture ends up in complete overturn, and that religious belief becomes completely scuttled. And so I struggle to see how America escapes that same fate. We are our brother's keeper. Cherish the helping, not the punishment. Yes. Also, didn't he say you are your brother's keeper? Yeah, that's. And then the religious guy came to him and said, how do I get eternal life? Jesus said, well, what do you think? And he says, love God, love your neighbor as yourself. And Jesus says, yep, you got it. Great job. Congratulations. And the guy's like, okay, this seems like a trick. Jesus doesn't normally respond this way to us religious guys. So he asked the question, who is my neighbor? And Jesus then tells the parable, the story of the Good Samaritan, in which he takes the group of people that the religious guys hated the most in culture and makes that group of people the hero of the story. And he's saying, your neighbor is that group of people who you don't think worthy of God's favor and God's love. That's who your neighbor is. And it says at another point, if you only love those who look like you, if you only love your family, how are you any better than the worst sinner in culture? Have you heard of Republican policy, Jesus? I don't know if I've heard that exact term, but yes, I think most evangelicals, most right-wing Christians in America today are following the Republican Party platform rather than the Bible. But tell me what Republican policy Jesus is. Ooh, my TikTok is blowing up. I'm sure with angry Christians who are very upset that I said abortion is not condemned in the Bible. This Perky says exactly 100% truth. Again, guys, if you go to my website, pastor-paul.com, you can sign up for my newsletter, get announcements when events like these are happening, join my community chat board, get access to the audiobook version of my novel, Joseph Comes to Town. Let me show you the book real quick. You can buy this on Amazon as well. Joseph Comes to Town, When the Religious Right Becomes Religiously Wrong. It is my depiction of how I think Jesus would react to the right-wing Christian church in America today if he were walking around with skin on in this season. It's called Joseph Comes to Town. And if you go to my website, pastor-paul.com, and subscribe at the $5.90 or subscribe at the newsletter, the free level, you get access to the audiobook version. I think you do. And if you subscribe at the $15.99 level, you'll get a free autographed copy of my book. I think I'm saying all of that right. So go check it out, pastor-paul.com. It's how I afford to live and give all this free content. And so if you're able to help, now I don't want you to do it if it's going to cause hardship on you, but if you can, go to pastor-paul.com and help support my work and my message. On YouTube, I have a QR code for the website and for my Venmo if you want to just give a one-time to help out. But yes, you can get access to my audiobook, the audiobook version of my book. Did I say that right? Joseph Comes to Town. Love that Donald Trump tie on there with the cross and Republican flag pin, which I think is an abomination to Christianity. Yeah, general strike for Mother's Day. What do you strike like what sex from your men? Is that I saw a TikTok this morning saying no sex until Roe v. Wade. Not a bad idea, perhaps. As long as you have other ways to take care of your needs, women. It is an abomination to Christianity. Yeah. All right, guys, I'm going to have to go. Any last thoughts before I go? Christians, if you're watching this live stream, I want to reiterate one more time. Abortion became an issue because Republican operatives partnered with religious men who were angry that their Christian universities were being forced by the Carter administration to integrate people of color into their school. That's how abortion became a political / Christian Protestant issue. It was a political decision to manipulate Christian voters through the use of abortion as an issue, because they were mad at Jimmy Carter for forcing their schools to integrate. It was a racial root that caused abortion to be used. And to this day, the Republican Party says we can do whatever we want because Christians will vote the way we tell them to vote. We just scream abortion and we know they will do whatever we tell them to do. We can do anything. We can be Madison Cawthorn calling out evil while doing evil, like is so common in the world. You've been manipulated, Christian, by political operatives for decades to get you to this point where you'll vote for an evil political party, no matter what evil they do, because you've been duped and manipulated and groomed to believe this is how God wants you to vote. And it is 100% a lie with racist roots, like so many things in the Republican Party. And Ronald Reagan, perhaps the most pro-choice governor in the history of the United States, overnight becomes a staunch anti-abortionist Christian. I say Christian, and I don't question anybody's relationship with God, but a Christian president who never attended a church service while in office. Isn't it interesting that our Christian messianic presidents, Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump, never went to church on a Sunday morning while in office, while those we hated, Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, did. Hillary Clinton even led a Bible study when Bill was in office. We have allowed ourselves to be duped and manipulated and call it God, and that is evil. Evil beyond anything imaginable. Evil by every measure of biblical scripture. And yet you say being a staunch right-wing anti-abortionist is Christian? You are a fool and you've been duped. You may be absolutely sincere in your desire to save babies. I don't question that. You may think you're doing something from the goodness of your heart to save babies, but you need to know you've been manipulated to get to this political point. And they mock you behind closed doors because they know they've used you and manipulated you and groomed you. And I'm sorry. All right, I'm going to let you go. I got to get on with my day. Love you all. Bless you. Keep you, like I said, don't be afraid to be angry. We should be angry today. But make sure you let that anger bring power and productivity through it for you. Love you all. Gosh, the comments are coming like crazy now, but I have to go. Thank you, Rosie. Good to see you on YouTube. I miss you guys so much, Rosie. I think the leak was to get the smoke off McConnell, the guy. Says Rosie on YouTube says, I think the leak of the SCOTUS memo was to get the smoke off McConnell, the guy with boyfriend and MTG and Bobert and Heckle and Jekyll. Thank you all for the wonderful, wonderful messages. Yes, be angry and hit the mark. Well said, blah, blah, blah. Love the names. All right, YouTube. We'll see you guys later. Love you.